this slightly dusty PC that features on the channel semi-regularly, I mean, it's not that bad, is my personal gaming system. And in today's video, I'm gonna use it as a guinea pig for a fancy new case transplant. But first, today's video is sponsored by Linode, which is slowly being absorbed by Akamai to form the most powerful Linux-based cloud computing service the world has ever seen. Kinda like it already is. Just look at this long list of Linux-based cloud computing services they offer. I can tell you're impressed. And this, combined with their competitive pricing and award-winning customer support, makes Linode a no-brainer choice. Sign up using the link in the video description to get a 60-day $100 free credit. First things first, for those of you that haven't seen it, let's have a quick look at the specs of this system. Now, aside from my personal dust collection, in this system we have an RTX 3080 that I MacGyvered a liquid cooler onto, an 11900K, and a bunch of motherboard and stuff. But actually, with that, let's decase the system so we can get a closer look at the other components. Now we'll talk about why I have to use this bad boy in a second, but first I want to get the whole motherboard out because it's kind of relevant to the story. Oh, this front dust filter actually isn't quite as dusty as I was expecting it to be. Although it's only been like 3 or 4 months, so it makes sense that it's not that bad. Again, the front fans aren't that bad either. I was kind of expecting the Gobi Desert to have thrown up on them. Yeah, you see, that's one of the problems with modern motherboards and this armor that they all have on them. It makes it really difficult for you to get to clips and things. Now we must face the nightmare of air cooler CPU power cable undoing in a mid-tower. Yeah, I'm gonna have to undo the fan. Oh, the fan out wasn't too bad. Ooh, I guess the top air filter received the brunt of the dust punishment. And then the final thing before we take a look at the motherboard is to just remove the power supply, and then I think we've got everything we need from this case. Power supply wise, I'm sure some of you are outraged to see me using this RM750X to power an RTX 3080, but it's been more than enough. And after removing a cross-thread standoff, I decided to give my motherboard a quick blow. Okay, my office is now 70% dustier. May not have been a great idea. Probably could have removed the fans first. I'm gonna replace them anyway, so I didn't need to blow their dust all over my office, but you live and you learn. Now, the motherboard in question is this amazing looking Gigabyte Z590 Aorus Master, which despite being one of the top dog Z590 Gigabyte boards, I bought new for like $200 US, 6 or 7 months after launch, because I guess no one bought this generation of Intel CPU and they just needed to get rid of the stock. Now, some of you may quite rightly be wondering, David, why do you use a cheap gigabit Ethernet card with a motherboard that has the rear I/O equivalent of Brad Pitt? Not young Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt nonetheless. Which is a reasonable question, considering that we have 10 gigabit Ethernet on this motherboard. The problem is the 10 gigabit Ethernet. With a lot of these fancier motherboards, they add this feature using an Mctenthiddy 10 gigabit Ethernet chip, which, in my experience on all the motherboards I've interacted with it on, this chip is complete ass. And after months of trying different drivers and still getting several network dropouts mid-online gaming session a day, I just decided screw it. I'm gonna buy a cheap gigabit Ethernet card off of Amazon, and I haven't had a single problem since. So motherboard manufacturers, if you're gonna insist on using this chip to brag about 10 gigabit Ethernet on your motherboards, at this price point, at least give me redundant Ethernet using a chip that we know works. Mctenthiddy, more like Mctent ass, am I right? Anyway, rant over, let's check out the new case. Ooh, Look at that. So exciting. That is some primo soft foam packaging. Very nice. And in case you've been living under a rock for the last 3 months, this is the Fractal Design North. Bit of a weird name. I probably would have called it the Wood myself, but you know, this is just me. The standout feature, of course, being the wooden slats on the front. Now, having seen it in person, I will say that I actually think the black one with the front oak would look better. But I bought the white one because I haven't done the whole white case thing in a while, and it still looks really nice. I just feel like the black and the dark wood would match a bit better, but that's just my opinion. It's got a solid front I/O. Of course, the most important thing is we need to test the power button, which... Ooh. It's got some real resistance to it. There's a teeny bit of springiness to it, but I like the resistance. The wood slats do seem quite porous in the front here for airflow, which is very good. And then the inside of the case, next to this little pleather pull, is actually painted this gunmetal color, which I quite like. I think it looks good. Oh, it does kind of sit in like that, and then you take it off. Okay, that's a decent side panel mount. The insides of the case just looks like a good modern case interior. It comes with 240mm fans out of the box mounted to this front 360mm radiator mount. And then on the top, we've got a 280mm radiator mount with a dust filter. So lots of fan mounting to go around. But for my system, we're just gonna have the 240mm GPU radiator in the front, which I'm thinking of using push-pull on that, just to increase the amount of air being pulled into the case. But I'll see how clearance works for that. But with that, let's start building in it. In the basement, we get a couple of hard drive cages, which are actually very low in here, which kind of makes sense for cable management. But I think it would be nice for them to add an accessory where you can have a double stack of hard drives as opposed to just the ones flat on the floor, so that you can have like 2 further up or up to 4 hard drives depending on what you want. Oh, I actually do quickly want to replace the fans on the cooler here with these Silent Wing Pro 4s, considering that I have 9 million of them lying around. It doesn't look quite as sleek as it did with the fans that come stock with this deep cool cooler, but I think it's going to be a little bit quieter. That fits real nice, look at that. They give you a nice guide of what all the screws are on the box, that's useful. Now comes the most feared test in all of Casedom, the Dawid Hand Big Air Cooler CPU Power Plug-in Difficulty Test. Look at that, it was real easy, even with this big air cooler. Good job, Fractal Design. After which I started the cable management in the case, which is very easy, aside from a weird small shortcoming. It comes with just 4 zip ties. That's a bit stingy, don't you think? Oh, like that. Okay. You just pull it out. It actually comes out real easy. And now the next step is to see what kind of clearance we're gonna have. If you drop this in here, and this goes... I mean, we can do push-pull if we want. So I decided to very professionally test how much of a difference it would make, starting off with a pull configuration, adding a second set of fans later on to see how much it helps the temperatures. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the way that it looks, because I feel like it's up to you to decide how you feel about it. But in person, I'm not nearly as painfully aroused by it as I was expecting to be. Aside from the awesome wooden front, I feel like maybe the side panel's a little bit too small, slightly obscuring your view of the system. And then what you get in return is this just blank bit of white space. I don't know, it's definitely not ugly, it just doesn't really get my juices flowing, you know? And I'm pretty disappointed that I didn't buy the black one. But you live and you learn, and that's besides the point. Let's do some gaming on it to see how the temperatures stack up, and then we'll add another set of fans in the front to see if that helps. Okay, so it's been a while, and we've been hovering around 54, 80 for a while now. 80 has been kind of the average. Let's see what happens when we add a couple more fans to that front radiator. Wow, it made a surprisingly big difference, especially when it comes to the CPU, where we lost about 10 degrees Celsius on average. My theory as to why that's happening is that the two fans couldn't quite pull enough air through the radiator into the case, and adding the extra two fans just gave that additional bit of airflow that the system needed to stay cool. I really am surprised at how big a difference that made. So at the end of the day, in person, visually, the Fractal Design North doesn't quite ignite the fire in my loins I was expecting it to. But it's a well thought out case, and it's nice to see Fractal using some interesting materials in the build. With that, thank you for watching, and until the next video, bye bye.